Welcome to another episode of ClearTalk, the podcast sponsored by Solutions 360. With me today is Tofiq Indawala, Director of Consulting. Good to have you.
Thanks, Brad. Always fun to be here.
So you and I work quite a bit hand in hand with customers, both on the business process consulting, but also, Q360 implementations and adoptions. And what I find continually, sadly, is that we're still treating service as kind of the poor stepchild, or we ring the doorbell and run. Are you feeling that that's getting better, or what are your thoughts?
Well, it's definitely getting better with a lot of the customers that we've been engaged with.
Yeah, that you and I have been engaged with, right?
But it's still not a foresight in overall integration practice. There are a lot of mature customers. But it still needs a lot of work in the industry to understand, what is a successful, handoff.
Well, and one, it's not a drop off. So I think within the model, it's that mindset of service is one of my key customers, my end user definitely. But when we talk about serving our customers, projects are transitory, services for the next 10 years. So are we looking at when we write the proposals, when we start to build out our systems, when we're doing serial numbers and all that, are we really having service pull us into them versus just, again, ring the doorbell? What do you see the ramifications when they do it well? And then we'll look at when they don't do it well. But what have you seen the value of treating service, I'll say, well, not coddling, but just treating them like our customer?
Yeah, I think that's a key point. I'm going to kind of hook up to the last part what you said on seeing service as a customer. And I think that's the key differentiator is looking at service as a stakeholder in the organization, in the relationship with the customer. Traditionally, everybody's taught that the stakeholders of your projects are really executives, the sales or the account manager, the customer itself. But they completely forget about service, who has to actually take that ownership of the relationship and service it for 10, 15 years. I mean, when we look at an average cycle of any technology, people aren't putting in new technology within their businesses every year. There is a cycle, and the service has to maintain and manage that cycle of installation of the new technology. So everything has to be geared towards that, from the inception of proposal to way the work is actually executed in your project, your work breakdown structure. Everything has to meet that quality to hand off so that you can be very successful in your handoff and managing that relationship post handoff. Do you have checklists? Do you have the quality assurance that's required to make sure that a project is done? The documentation at the end of the project, the as-built, where is that equipment installed? What are the serial numbers? So all of that information that makes service department more successful in maintaining, that is the critical part in how you organize all that information in your process or in your organization, what makes a really big difference.
Well, and I think that, the saying that last 5% of the project is costing us 10%. I like to flip it and say, if you're not investing at least 10% into that last 5%, you're going to be doing a whole lot of client repair. And that's expensive.
It's very expensive. And, the sad part of it is that you don't really know what that true cost is.
Right.
Because most of the time, the project is done, you've closed the project, it's handed off to service, and service is bleeding away from a profitability. And it just seems like service is not profitable. But really, it's a derivative of that tail end, that's bleeding out service. And it's somebody else's problem
Right. Well, and I think just the whole definition of warranty and service contract and preventive maintenance and life cycle maintenance and ongoing training. We hear RMR, but I think people think that that's just, I want to cash a check every month. But it's really, did I set up this conversation that I'm sticky with the customer and they know the value of it? I don't think people mind paying for value. I think they do mind paying for things that they don't receive anything. Again, why should I write a check when nobody comes by and loves on me?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the how you design your service organization. How do you put all of that value in the proposal of your RMR? So what is an RMR, right? I mean, that's your maintenance contract that you're proposing to the customer, or paid. It's basically, many times we explain it as an insurance policy for that equipment that you've installed. What is the cost of that equipment not working? You have an executive meeting happening tomorrow morning, and half your equipment is not working. Well, what is the cost of having executives sitting around trying to make that equipment work? So how are we selling that, and how are we servicing? Is it only when you break, when things break, or are you doing preventive maintenance? Are you going out there or remotely diagnosing and servicing the customer every quarter? How do you plan for that? That provides that value, and you're face to face with customer throughout those engagement, and having that recurring renewals as well. And not just having the initial RMR that you got them signed for 2 years or 3 years, but how do you get renewed? What value are you going to provide to the customer over that initial term that they will want to renew with you? And that's how you think about RMR.
And I think in order to do RMR, we really have to go back to that core function of a handoff. Is service, pulling the project towards them? Again, checklists, all of that. Do we invite service in to actually do the training? How early do we introduce them? Or do we just ring the doorbell and leave the bag on the doorstep and say, well, here's service's number, but they might answer. So that did we connect our customers' hands with services' hands? And that's, to me, the handoff that we really want to talk to, is those two people holding hands versus the project. The project's transitory. We're just the vehicle to get to service.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when new projects are born into an organization, they have a checklist of the information they need to be able to execute a project, and that's no different when you're handing off that project to the service. As you said, it's transitory. So when we invite service in, they will have their own acceptance criteria. Do they have the necessary information, and was the work done to the standard that they can manage and maintain that relationship?
Well, and I think if we have that respect of they're a stakeholder, but also a key stakeholder in that continued relationship. And when service is set up well, and again, the projects set them up well or poorly, we get client referrals. And I just find they're your next sales cycle. Again, happy customers tell a whole lot of other people. Unhappy customers also tell people, but they don't tell us they told them.
Right.
So it's one of those, how much damage are we doing? Because they don't raise things to us, but who else they talking to? And so to me, it's the closure for the next sale.
Absolutely. Yeah. Successful implementation, successful customers help you make more sales.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, and hopefully we'll get more people to kind of buy into this thought process, because it's hard to make the change, but it's not difficult to understand the value.
Absolutely. I think it's a great value add, and it just additional revenue base that just sitting there for customers to captivate.
Great. Thanks, Tofiq.
Thanks, Brad.